that there's a promise, that it's going to be successful. He had a couple of films that weren't successful, and that he would like to forget that he ever was involved in them. So now it's like he knows, for a long while now, he knows that, what is good, what makes a good story and what makes a bad story, and how to, all this other stuff. You got the writer, you got the screenwriter, you got the production, and then you got the cameraman. So really complex, I guess, way of that he goes about stuff, and I'm the same way. So I have to really think production-wise, direction, and story, and to kind of get back his interest in Mortal Kombat.
Would you say that anyone, period, that those are the most important things that you've always, that you should always be thinking about when you do any film?
Yeah, definitely the story. I've seen a lot of stories where they have a neat idea, they just can't execute it right, and that makes for bad cinema. Like right now, I kind of feel that it has been going on for 10-something years that there are not so many good movies out there. Like, yeah, I'll rent a movie, I'll watch a movie on television, or go to theaters or something, and like everybody, around me, like they watch them or they don't watch them, but I'm kind of thinking like, okay, like another 20 years or another 40 years, are we still going to talk about these films? Like that's all up in the air, and I don't think any film for the next, since about 10 years, that in the next 50 years or something, they're going to be non-existent to that generation, or to those generations.
My response on that is, I don't know if I've ever told you this or not, but two things is that, one, every time, you talk about whether it be Mortal Kombat or anything that you are writing, and you make reference, you're always mentioning like a film I've never heard of. Why? Because I'm more familiar with the films from today. And then when I find out these films you're talking about movies from 60s, 50s, 40s, 80s. Like you never, like with any movie that you ever reference anything connected or that has a vision of what you're trying to write, I can't really say surpasses the year of 1995. And the second thing is, when I do look through your collection of films or whatever, I see exactly what you're saying right here, because it's in your mind, obviously, and that's the way that I see everybody, in any household. That's the way they have their movies rearranged, obviously. In your case, you've got everything from the last 10 years kind of pushed in the back. and the first ones, it doesn't matter like how many times you'll rearrange your films, whether they be your DVDs or your VHSs, and yes, people, VHSs do still exist. But you've always, you've got your older films always up first, or the ones that you're always talking about or referencing, and that's what I get. Because obviously, everybody has their favorites up front of their collection, and the ones they like less are pushed in the back. In your case, you've got the newer films pushed in the back.
Yeah, I noticed that too a lot. Yeah, like I just like old films, like be it the 80s or the 70s or the 60s. I have like films that even go back to like the 1930s, and maybe even more, like 1920s or 1910s.
I think that's what that sci-fi collection was that you had.
Yeah, I have a big sci-fi collection, all in well, the majority.
That black and white collection that you got.
Black and white. I really enjoy watching them. Although, nowadays I think people would fall asleep by just looking at the title screen or something. And to me, it's like there is something that we lost, like maybe at the end of the 80s or the early 90s or something like that. That this whole fantasy, magic type of stuff, like we lost it like totally sometimes in the 90s. I could be wrong. Maybe we lost it back in the late 80s. I don't know.
Personally, I want to say 80s because with a lot of the stuff that did come out of the 90s, the way I heard about it, they worked on that stuff for like a long time. They might have like started in the 80s and then just finally got it out there in the 90s. That's a lot of the better projects that I heard that did come out of the 90s had been started somewhere in the late 80s.
Yeah, like I could see some people trying to get their projects running for like 10, maybe 5, 10, 20 something years, and nobody optioning them or selling, them buying these people's screenplays or whatnot. But yeah, like there is a big difference between the 80s and anything before the 80s and after the 80s. The problem with stuff after the 80s is like we're becoming more scientific, more like evident. Like people don't believe in mythological creatures anymore. They're